My dear friends, there are moments in life when everything we believe, everything we think we know about the world, comes crashing down and something new, something better, is born from the rubble. Today, I want to share my story about hate, transformation, and hope. A story called, I lived 30 years hating Muslims until one saved my life. For 30 years, hate lived inside me like an old companion. It sat with me at breakfast. It whispered in my ear at work. It shadowed me in the quiet moments before sleep. But if you had asked me why I hated, I couldn't have given you a real answer. I would have repeated things I heard from my parents, my friends, the news, the culture around me. I would have cited stories of fear, isolated incidents magnified 1,000 times until they felt like an undeniable truth. But deep down, there was no real understanding, only the illusion of it. Hate is not born. It is taught and it is inherited. It grows not in the light of personal experience, but in the dark spaces of ignorance. And like anything that grows in the dark, it thrives on fear. I feared what I did not know. I feared what I was told to fear, and over time, that fear hardened into anger, and that anger hardened into hate. I didn't realize it then, but the beliefs I carried weren't truly mine. They were hand-me-downs, worn-out stitched from someone else's pain, someone else's insecurity, someone else's need to feel superior or safe. I lived most of my life without ever questioning the story that had been handed to me. I never stopped to ask, why do I feel this way? Or who told me this? Or most importantly, is this true? Instead, I let my mind search for moments that confirmed my prejudice, and I ignored everything that challenged it. It's called confirmation bias, but to me, it just felt like being right. We rarely question the feelings that give us a sense of certainty, even when that certainty is toxic. And hate, more than anything, gives us a false sense of strength. It tells us we are better, smarter, safer than them, whoever they are. It paints the world in simple colors, good and bad, right and wrong, us and them. It's comfortable, it's easy. It relieves us of the hard, uncomfortable work of understanding people as individuals, with all their contradictions and complexities. The truth is, hate shields us from vulnerability. It protects us from the painful reality that the world is messy, that people are complicated, that suffering and goodness coexist in every community, every family, every heart, even our own. And when you carry hate, you don't have to feel empathy. You don't have to understand, you just have to judge. But the foundation of hate is so weak, so hollow, that it only takes one real moment of connection to crack it wide open. It only takes one human experience, one act of unexpected kindness, to reveal how much of your life you've spent building walls around yourself. That revelation doesn't come easy, it hurts, it humiliates. It shatters the identity you built to survive, and yet, it is the most freeing moment a person can experience. I spent 30 years hating, not because of what I had seen with my own eyes, but because of what I refused to see. Because it was easier, because it was safer, but safer isn't better. Easier isn't true. Hate demands no courage, love does. When we ask why we believe what we believe, we open the door to change. When we peel back the layers and examine the root, we realize that the reasons for hate are often paper, thin, built on fear and pain, not on truth or reality. It took most of my life, but I finally learned that understanding my why wasn't just about unlearning hate. It was about reclaiming my ability to choose compassion over fear, connection over division, and courage over comfort. Because in the end, hate doesn't protect us. It only isolates us from the very people who might be the ones to save our lives. There is a strange thing that happens when you are standing on the edge between life and death. All the barriers you spent your life building suddenly mean nothing. In the blink of an eye, the lines I had drawn in my mind, between us and them, between safe and dangerous, were erased. The truth is, crisis doesn't care about the stories we tell ourselves. In crisis, you don't ask where someone comes from, what religion they follow, what language they speak. In crisis, all you see is a human being in front of you, and all you feel is the raw, terrifying need to survive. It happened so fast, yet somehow, time seemed to slow. One moment I was walking down the street, head full of my usual worries, carrying the same prejudices I had carried for 3 decades. The next, I was on the ground. Pain radiated through my body. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe properly. Fear gripped me harder than any emotion I'd ever known. I was vulnerable in a way I had never allowed myself to be, and I was helpless. People passed by. Some glanced in my direction and quickly looked away. Some even crossed the street, pretending not to see me. For years, I thought I knew who was good and who was bad. I thought I could tell just by looking. But there I was, broken and gasping, and none of the people who looked like me, none of the ones I had been taught to trust, stopped to help. Then he appeared. He was a Muslim. His appearance was unmistakable to me. His clothing, his beard, even the way he moved. If you had asked me before that day, I would have said he was someone to fear, someone to avoid. Yet there he was, running toward me while others were running away, without hesitation, without fear, without judgment. He knelt beside me, speaking words I couldn't understand, but whose meaning was clear. "I'm here. I'm going to help you." His hands were steady, his voice calm. He stayed with me, reassuring me, comforting me, even as the minutes dragged on and the sirens screamed in the distance. He applied pressure to my wounds. He called for help. He risked his own safety in a place where helping a stranger, especially one who might have hated him, could have put him in danger too. In those agonizing minutes, everything I thought I knew crumbled. It wasn't a speech that changed me. It wasn't a book or a debate or a well-argued article. It was a simple, undeniable truth. This man, whom I had been taught to despise, chose to see me not as an enemy, but as a person worth saving. Prejudice is easy when life is comfortable, when you feel powerful, when you are safely tucked behind the walls you build. But when you are stripped of everything, your pride, your certainty, your strength, you realize that those walls only ever trapped you. They kept you from seeing the beauty of human compassion that exists beyond your narrow world. Crisis reveals character. Crisis shows us who we truly are and who others truly are. That man didn't hesitate to help me, even knowing that if the situation were reversed, I might have looked the other way. He didn't see a man poisoned by hate. He saw a man in need. And in doing so, he gave me the gift of not just my life, but something even more powerful, a second chance to see the world differently. I didn't leave that moment the same man who entered it. I left knowing that the walls inside me had begun to crumble. I left understanding that humanity is not divided by religion or race or culture. It is united by courage, by compassion, by love. And sometimes it takes losing everything you think you know to discover the truth that was waiting for you all along. There are moments that redefine us, not because they are loud or dramatic, but because they are simple, undeniable, and pure. One act, one choice, one moment of humanity can cut through the noise of a lifetime of hatred and reveal who we were meant to be all along. That man's decision to help me didn't just save my life. It shattered the identity I had clung to for 30 years. It forced me to see myself and the world through new eyes. Before that day, my sense of self was built on the idea of us and them. I felt strong inside those walls. I thought I was protecting myself, protecting my community. I thought I understood the world in black and white. I thought hate made me strong, made me righteous. But lying there, bleeding and helpless, being held together by the hands of the very person I had once despised, all of those beliefs crumbled into dust. The reality was so much simpler than I had ever allowed myself to see. Good and evil are not owned by any one group. Kindness and cruelty live in every corner of humanity. And if that was true, if a man I was taught to hate could show me such selfless love, what did that say about everything else I had believed? Identity is a powerful thing. We build it like a fortress, brick by brick, shaped by where we grow up, who raises us, what stories we are told. For 30 years, I thought I knew who I was. I thought hate was part of my foundation. But it only took one act, one decision by one man to reveal that my foundation wasn't made of stone. It was made of sand. It was built on fear, ignorance, and lies I had never questioned. After that day, I couldn't go back. I couldn't unsee what I had seen. I couldn't unknow the truth. That man's courage forced me to confront the parts of myself I had hidden away. The fear I mistook for wisdom, the anger I mistook for strength, the division I mistook for loyalty. It was painful, it was humbling, it was necessary, and yet there was beauty in that pain. Because when my old identity fell away, something new began to take its place. Something more real, more human. I started to see people not through the lens of race, religion, or nationality, but through the lens of character, of heart, of shared humanity. I realized that true strength isn't in closing your heart to others, it's in opening it. True pride isn't in standing above others, it's in standing with them, one act, one hand reaching out, one life saved. That's all it took to redefine who I was. And it taught me something even more powerful. We each hold that same power. Every one of us carries the ability to redefine another person's life, not through argument, not through force, but through action, through compassion, through courage. The world doesn't change because people shout each other down. It changes because someone dares to break the cycle of hate with an act of love. It changes when someone chooses, even in the face of fear, to do the right thing. That Muslim man didn't just save me from death. He saved me from a life wasted on hatred. He gave me a second chance at being the person I was always meant to be. And if one act of kindness could tear down 30 years of walls inside me, imagine what could happen if more of us chose to be that spark in someone else's life. Imagine the world we could build, not of fear and suspicion, but of connection, of forgiveness, of hope. It only takes one moment to change everything. It only takes one act of love to start a revolution inside a human heart. The hardest journey I ever took wasn't across any distance. It wasn't over mountains or oceans or deserts. It was the journey inward, the slow, painful walk toward facing myself honestly for the first time. After that day, after that man saved my life, I couldn't hide from myself anymore. I had to confront not just the hate I carried, but the pride that kept me from letting it go. Humility is a word we like to throw around as if it's easy. But real humility, the kind that tears through your soul and demands change, is brutal. It doesn't whisper, it roars. It forces you to sit in the wreckage of who you thought you were, and admit that much of it was built on lies. And it asks you to own it, not to blame it on where you grew up, or who taught you, or what you saw on the news. No excuses, no hiding, just ownership. For 30 years, I wore my beliefs like armor. I thought they made me strong, made me smart. I thought being cynical and suspicious was the same thing as being wise. I thought rejecting entire groups of people made me loyal to my own. But when I was honest with myself, I saw the truth. I was a coward. I was afraid of being wrong. I was afraid of what it would mean to admit that I had judged, hated, and excluded good people for no reason other than my own fear and ignorance. I had to look in the mirror and see not a victim of bad circumstances, but a participant in a cycle of hate. I had to accept that the pain I caused with my words, my attitudes, my silence, it was real, it mattered. Even if I didn't see it at the time, it left scars, and acknowledging that truth broke something inside me. It broke the self-righteousness that had kept me trapped. It broke the illusion that my hate had ever protected me, but it also did something else. It made space for healing. Because when we take ownership of our mistakes, real ownership, not just lip service, we create the possibility for transformation. We stop dragging the weight of our shame behind us. We stop trying to rewrite history to make ourselves feel better. We accept the past, learn from it, and use it to build something new. It wasn't easy. There were nights when the shame was so heavy I thought it might crush me. There were moments when I wished I could just go back to my old ways of thinking, when the world felt simpler, when I didn't have to feel the guilt of knowing how wrong I had been. But growth is never comfortable. It demands that we lean into the discomfort, that we let it reshape us into something better, something truer. I began to listen instead of speaking. I began to ask questions instead of assuming answers. I began to see people, really see them, without the filter of prejudice. And in doing so, I started to find not just forgiveness for myself, but connection with others. Every conversation, every story shared, every small act of trust given and received, became a brick in the foundation of a new identity. one built not on fear, but on humility, compassion, and hope. Owning my past didn't erase the harm it caused, but it honored the people who helped me change. It honored the man who saved me when I didn't deserve saving. It honored the better man I was trying day by day to become. True redemption doesn't come from forgetting who we were. It comes from remembering and choosing to be different, choosing to be better, choosing over and over again to live with humility, to face the reflection honestly, and to keep walking forward even when it's hard. When the dust of your old life settles, when the anger fades, when the shame is faced head on, you are left standing at a crossroads. One road leads backward into old patterns, familiar lies, and the false comfort of ignorance. The other road leads forward into something unknown, something terrifying at times but infinitely more honest. I chose to move forward. I chose to find a new mission for my life, a mission born not from hate but from hope. Hope was something I hadn't truly understood for most of my life. When you live trapped in hatred, hope feels naive, foolish even. It feels like something for other people, softer people. But what I discovered is that hope is not weak. Hope is the greatest act of courage there is. Hope is what it takes to believe that people can change, that wounds can heal, that broken things can be rebuilt stronger than before. Hope is what it takes to look at the worst parts of yourself and still believe that you can write a better story. My new mission is simple, but it is not easy. It is to tell the truth about my past so that others might find the strength to question their own. It is to stand as living proof that hate does not have to be the end of the story. It is to remind anyone willing to listen that one act of love can change the entire course of a life. I began sharing my story, at first with trembling hands and a voice that cracked under the weight of shame. Each time I spoke it aloud, it got a little easier. Each time, the burden grew a little lighter. I learned that vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's the bridge to connection. I learned that when we admit our failures openly, we don't lose respect, we earn trust. I talk about the man who saved me, not to make myself look noble for changing, but to honor the nobility he showed in saving a stranger who didn't deserve it. I share the raw truth about my prejudices, my failures, my regrets, because there are people out there right now carrying the same weight I once did, convinced that change is impossible, that the world is too broken. I want them to know change is always possible. Healing is always possible. Hope is always possible. The mission doesn't end with my own story. It's about encouraging others to open their hearts, to see the humanity in those they've been taught to fear. It's about challenging comfortable assumptions, about standing up when it would be easier to stay silent. It's about building bridges in a world that keeps trying to tear them down. I no longer see the world as divided into us and them. There is only us. All of us struggling and striving and hurting and hoping. There is no enemy standing across from me now. Only other people, each with their own battles, their own dreams, their own capacity for kindness. This mission has not made my life easier. It has made it richer, fuller, more honest. It has given me friendships that would have once been unthinkable. It has given me moments of grace and connection that have taken my breath away. It has given me a sense of purpose deeper than anything hatred ever offered. If hate can be taught, then so can love. If hearts can be hardened, then they can also be softened. If lives can be poisoned with fear, then they can be healed with hope. That is my mission now, to be a witness to the power of change, to be a reminder that the road back to humanity is never closed. It is waiting for each of us just beyond the walls we dare to tear down. It is waiting in the simple, courageous choice to believe that a better world isn't just possible. It's already being built, one heart at a time. My story isn't unique. Around the world, people are discovering that when we look beyond fear, beyond prejudice, we find what was there all along: family. The question I leave you with is simple. What walls are you ready to tear down today? Because somewhere, someone you were taught to fear might be the one to save your life.